get invited to these charity events, and alhamdulillah I get invited to quite a lot of them, I like to give a different perspective on the situation. Because when we come here raising money for the brothers and sisters in Gaza, for what's happening in Syria, then maybe the situation in Burma, then the family in Africa, we always come, we talk about money, we talk about statistics, we talk about facts. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about charity in the Quran, Allah makes it a spiritual issue. And the reality is that there is a spiritual ailment, a spiritual problem that we as Muslims are suffering from, which is why this calamity is over us. So if we can find a spiritual solution coupled with our ethic through the sadaqah, we will find there to be long-term, permanent success. Because think about it, we give more charity than anyone. We give money more than anyone. We have broken world records as a community when it comes to giving charity. But as we increase the sadaqah we give, the calamity upon the Muslim Ummah exponentially increases every single year. And if you look back the last 100 years, but the reality is that if we look back at the calamities that Ummah has been suffering over the last 100 years, we will find that this year has probably been the worst. And you may be a country, other than a sellout country, and we all know what we're talking about there, Muslim country that's not suffering. Majority of them are being violated right now, whether by poverty, whether by war, civil war, whatever you call it, there is problems. But we're talking about Gaza specifically. So I want to share the actual problem with you, in my humble opinion. Why the Muslims in Gaza are suffering. And then once we know what the disease is, once we diagnose that properly, then we can come and provide the correct medication. We can prescribe the best possible solution. And then with that in mind, when we give charity, we'll find there'll be a lot more barakah in what we give. So I need your ear. Because if we all claim to care about the problems in the Ummah, then please listen up close. Not that I'm someone important to be explaining this, but I feel like I have the problem at hand. So a couple of days ago, our Imam, very humble guy, he comes to me after the Salah and he says, I've been thinking about this issue with regards to the Palestine and Israeli conflict. He said, have you noticed, Imran, when you look through the Quran and you find that Allah sent certain messengers to certain nations, when the nations turned their back on the message and the messenger, what did Allah do to those nations? I asked you, what did Allah do to those nations? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did what? Destroyed them. Adab Ali. Tormenting punishment. The Banu Israel were a nation to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets like he said no other. If you look through Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest surah in the Quran, if you look at the first half before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the change of the Qibla. Because the change of the Qibla was basically Allah saying, I have taken the capital of the best nation away from Jerusalem and I've given it to the Arabs in Mecca. When the first half, before that happened, Allah was complaining about the Banu Israel. I gave them this, then I gave them this, then I gave them this, and they still wouldn't believe. They were questioning me about resurrection. I killed them, then I brought them back to life. They saw each other resurrect. They still didn't believe. Allah goes on and on and on and on. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is complaining about his own. It is said that there is one rock by which they murdered 70 prophets. Zakaria alayhi salam. You know how they killed him? Anyone know how they killed Zakaria? They sliced his body in half. They sawed him in half. Anyone know how they killed Yahya? Alayhi salam. They wanted Yahya to give a ruling on incest. They wanted him to allow incest. He refused when he asked me that. Of course he's going to refuse. You know what they did? They cut his head off. The ground swallowed him. These were the people to whom Allah sent the final messenger, who was Isa ibn Maryam, alayhi salam. Jesus. Then what did they try and do to Jesus? They wanted to hang him. Are you mad? You want to hang? And look, if you look in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it says anything that gets hanged is cursed. The reason why they wanted to hang the Prophet of Allah was to show he is cursed, to mock him. They wanted to mock. It wasn't just kill. It wasn't just murder now. It was let's mock the Prophet of God. Jesus. Allah didn't let that happen. You know why? Because if they had killed Jesus, what would Allah have done to them? This was their final messenger. If they killed Isa, what would Allah have done to them? What did Allah do to the previous nations? You guys are listening to me, Allah. Am I speaking Spanish, bro? What did Allah do to the previous nations? When they rejected their messenger? When they had no more chances left? Isa was their last chance. If they killed Isa alayhi salam, what would have happened to them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have destroyed them. Allahu a'lam, this is our reflection upon what we see in the Quran. But it would appear that Allah would have destroyed them. And today, we will not have the issue of the Israel versus Palestine conflict. My question to you is, reflect on the Quran, seriously. It's not just there for us to read this month and not understand. It's not there. It's not there for us to just read and not understand. This book is there for me and you to internalize. Because you go to Salat Tarawih, but you don't understand what the Imam is saying. You don't reflect upon these verses. Then you wonder why this calamity is happening. Allah is telling you in the Quran, if you read Surah Al-Maryam, you read Surah Al-Ma'idah, you read the verse of Surah Al-Imran, Allah is telling you why the conflict is occurring right now. Why did Allah take Isa alayhi salam and let the Banu Israel live? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would use the Banu Israel as a means of punishing this ummah when it stepped off course. That's why Allah let them live. And when Isa returns, alayhi salam, and destroys the Dajjal, he will finally inflict Allah's wrath upon that qawm. Don't worry, they will get it. Because Isa isn't dead yet. Isa will come back, alayhi salam. Then when he comes, he will silence them. But Allah let them stay. You know why? Because Allah said, if this qawm of mine, if this ummah of mine, the ummah of Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if they mess up, I will use this nation to punish them. Israel is surrounded by how many Muslim countries? Israel is small, brother. You know Israel doesn't even have like a real economy. We're here. Look, I'm not trying to mock you. I'm not one of the guys that's going to tell you haram, haram, halal, halal. But I'm going to say, look, just think a little bit. Use your mind. I'm not going to say don't boycott. But if you think boycotting Coca-Cola is going to damage Israel's economy, do you even know how much Israel earns from Coca-Cola? Hardly anything. Their money comes from individual bankers that fund the government, such as America. You can boycott what you want, mate. But it's not going to change the problem of the Ummah. There's a deeper problem. We left Allah. We left His book. We left the Sunnah of His Messenger. So Allah decided to punish us. Do you guys know about Hajjaj ibn Yusuf? Anyone know Hajjaj ibn Yusuf? Study the history, my brother. I know I'm being a bit raw today, yeah, but I'm annoyed. You know why? Because I tried to be that soft guy. Come on, brothers and sisters. But I'm angry now. People are dying. And you know what? It's our fault. It's our fault. Not because you're not giving enough, but because you're not praying enough. You're not submitting enough. You keep chatting to girls. You keep texting her. She don't even like you. She's with him. And he'll never marry you because he's cheating on you anyway. And he cheated on a girl before, and a girl before. And I don't care if you got hijab. You know you suffer from the same problems that the non-hijab you suffer from. So I'm going to keep it real. Boycott haram. Boycott the sin. Boycott the evil. Then you will see Allah will send His victory down upon us, inshallah ta'ala. So, what is the solution? I kind of gave you a clue already. What's the solution? What's the solution? You know, wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give you answers. In the Quran, Allah gives you questions. Allah gives you questions. Allah wants you to think. We are officially an idiot people. We are stupid, we are dumb, we are unqualified, our IQ level is low. Because we don't think no more. We don't think no more. I put up a statement. There was a video about brothers and sisters in the West Bank calling the Pakistani army, saying, come help us. So after, that was an emotional video for me. So I put up a statement from that video saying, wallahi, I am officially embarrassed in Pakistan right now. And I got a bunch of packies. I'm packy, I've said. A bunch of packies. Like, made us fight against each other, you didn't think that these men are controlling you. Lebanese people make me laugh. And then Lebanese people in the house, I'm not good because I'm going to go in. Lebanese people make me laugh. They're very nationalistic. They don't even understand. Wallahi, you know when they divided the Muslim lands? There was an agreement called the Sykes-Picot Agreement. That happened after World War I when they destroyed the Islamic Empire. You know what? You know why Lebanon was created? It was created as a gift to the Christian Arabs for helping the West destroying the Muslim Empire, the Khilafah. Now you got Lebanese man walking around with Lebanese flag, Lebanese shop. I'm Lebanese, bro. Well done. Bro, do you know that you got a gift to Christian Arabs? Think. Just calm down, just think. So I'll ask you again, what's the solution? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing us with this nation because we left. And by the way, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, yeah? But Israel, America, all these other countries are under Israel's influence. Not because they have more authority in terms of power, but because those that fund America, those that fund the West, are Zionists. Do you understand this? That's why this small little country, small, that's why that country is able to get away with so much. That's why. So they're our problem. Every problem, Iraq war, Afghanistan suffering, bro, you can blame it all on this. Allah is punishing us with them because we left Him. So the solution is turn to Allah. Very good. I'm sorry, I'm venting today, I'm angry. You shouldn't have invited me. I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. Because, I feel like, why am I even talking? Because we're going to go to the mosque today, we're going to leave after 8 rakat. Okay, if it's just 8 rakat, stay 8 rakat, but then we just leave. Sit and talk in the back. Open up the mushaf and recite. Make dua. إذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعان. When they ask about me, when they ask, tell them I am close. I'm قريب. Allah could have said, when they ask about me, say I'm strong. When they ask about me, say I will punish them if they disrespect me. When they ask about me, tell them I will do this, tell them I will do that. But Allah said, when they ask about me, tell them I'm close. You think Allah's far is close? Ujib. And I instantaneously respond the moment they call to me. Even if all they call me is da'watan, just one call. Even if they didn't call me all last year. Even if they never called me their entire life. And if they never, ever called me, and all they give me is one call, I will respond. Ad-da'i. To the call of the one who calls. Allah didn't say to the call of the Muslim believer, hijabi, 5 times praying brother with a 6-fist beard. Allah said, Ad-da'i. As long as you call, as long as you are a caller, I respond to you. So call for your own personal problems in your life and whatever, and call for the ummah. Call. And return to the kitab of Allah. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزُّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Allah said it was written in the Zabur and the books that came before, that, I'm going to stop, don't worry, inshallah. That was written in the books that came before, that Allah will give this earth to the righteous slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will give this earth to the righteous slaves. They will inherit it, meaning it's compulsory. So once you have that mindset, now I urge you to give. Now I urge you to give from Allah's wealth that He has given to you. Because in Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that give to them from Allah's wealth, not yours or mine. Bearing in mind Allah says that, in Surah Al-Hadid Allah says, يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. Look at how Allah speaks. Bearing in mind it's not your wealth. You didn't just pay your money to get in. You gave Allah's money that He gave to you. But then Allah said, يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. Allah said, who will lend Allah some money? That's how Allah speaks. Allah said, who's going to lend me money? His money. His money. Allah humbles Himself to us. We are people that really, don't deserve that kind of stuff.